Yes, sir.
Hoping that you will become elected, to what use would you put the email media and so on, blogs and whatever, to get out your message on a regular basis for interaction with the public?
That's good. You know, being a computer guy, I have a computer business, so I'm big on all of that stuff. Social media is going to be huge. My plan and my intent is I will have full transparency. You guys will see my expense reports every month. I will send emails to everybody. How many emails? Do any of you even communicate with Julia Brownlee's office at all? I'm on her mailing list because I like to know what's going on with her. I get, well, since the election started, I've gotten 2 so far in the last 6 months. You'll get one every month from me, if not even more frequently. You'll know what's going on. I intend to do town halls, have forums like this with all of the constituents. I walk around the district right now, and I ask the people, who's your representative in Sacramento? 9 out of 10 said, I don't know. That's going to change. You guys need to know who your assembly rep is in Sacramento, and I intend to fix that.
What is the area that you represent?
41st Assembly District goes from the Santa Monica Pier all the way up to Port Hueneme in Ventura County, and it's between the beach and the 101. And a gentleman here has drawn out, actually was kind enough to draw the map for us. So the cities that are in it is going from the San Fernando Valley is Encino, Tarzana, Woodland Hills, Agoura, Calabasas, and then over the hill it's Malibu, Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica, actually going north of Santa Monica, Pacific Palisades, Malibu, and then Oxnard, some of Oxnard and Port Hueneme.
Is this the water? Is this?
Yeah, that's the, yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So you're all along the coast.
Yes, sir.
At one time, California State Legislature met for only a half a year. There has been some talk about reinstating that. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I agree with it. You know, as long as, and here's one stipulation though, as long as we go to the part-time legislature and the part-time sessions, we need to get rid of term limits. And I don't know how a lot of you feel about it, but we need to get rid of the term limits, and here's why. First of all, James Madison, who, if anybody's never read his stuff, read the Federalist Papers, and he makes a great argument as to why we need to not have term limits. And because the last term, if Julie Brownlee wins this time, she's not accountable to you any longer. She's a lame duck. And just like Arnold's, look what we're getting out of Arnold. He's not accountable to the people any longer. If we drop those term limits, then I'm always accountable to you, and it's up to you. This empowers the people. The people are empowered to vote them out if they're unhappy with it, and it's up to them to keep their job. And you know, I'm a firm believer of that. Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
If the districts weren't gerrymandered the way they are, that might make sense. But the term limits are the only way to get any change in, frankly, a corrupt organization.
Well, let me give you an example of what term limits have done to Sacramento. Say like I win this year, or say like another Democrat wins, or some young politician, who's never worked in the private sector, or whatever. What happens is they have a shopping cart full of legislation they want to introduce and make a name for themselves. For people who want to be a career politician, which I, by the way, do not want to be a career politician. But they have a shopping cart full of legislation. By the time it gets to the floor and gets passed, by the time it's implemented, they're gone. They're out of the legislature. State Assembly, 6 years. That's it, 6 years. I would be even more open to doubling the term limit. But I think it's too short a time right now because there's no accountability for anything out there. Basically, the staffs and the special interests are running amok up there and running everything. But you're right. I mean, with the gerrymandered districts, it makes it harder for that. But next year, we're going to have redistricted districts with this in the hands of the citizens, which Nancy Pelosi is fighting tooth and nail for. So is Arnold. She is pouring millions of dollars into fighting the redistricting. So what does that tell you? That means it's something good.
I thought it was already voted in.
It's already voted in, but they're trying to get a proposition on the ballot to overturn it. I know that.
So now
Yeah, this is what happens when we're ruled by the professors.
so our vote means nothing.
Well,
I mean,
right.
they just,
That's what they believe. Any other questions? Well, okay, Simon.
What's your opinion on the legalization of marijuana?
Well, that's a tough question. I think, there's pros and cons to marijuana, and I hear the argument that, oh, marijuana is going to solve all our fiscal problems. If we put a tax on marijuana, it's going to end our budget crisis. And I'm thinking to myself, are really that many people going to smoke marijuana? I think for medicinal purposes, it's good. I don't think it's a harmful drug, but a lot of studies have shown it's a gateway drug, and that's where my concerns are. And there's also other concerns as far as the pharmaceutical aspects, because right now you can't tax pharmaceuticals. And so now we have to think about when it becomes legal, can we tax it? And right now, no. And so I think there's going to be a ballot measure coming down the pipeline that says we can tax marijuana. So if they pass it and legalize it, we're not going to get any tax money out of it. And so I think it's one of those things that it's not really a priority for me right now, as far as my policies go, because I want to focus on jobs. I want to focus on fixing the economy. Yes?
Marijuana, to my knowledge,
Choose you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, you want, I'm not on marijuana, so I have another, why don't you go ahead?
the last time I looked, marijuana was not deductible as a medical expense on taxes. So when I read that, there's, I guess it's a pleasant feeling to use marijuana if you're not feeling well with it. But I don't believe that the revenue, of course, alcohol, it used to be, everyone drank alcohol, but I think it's a step in the wrong direction on marijuana.
Well, it's one of those situations where we got to let the people decide. If it's going to be on the ballot, we got to let the people decide. What the people decide will be,
But it isn't even considered a medical expense on a tax return, so that would kind of make you aware that if it was such a medical expense.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
This is probably a very stupid question, but what do you think about the death penalty?
I'm completely for it.
Amen.
I'm completely for it. In fact, we have, it might sound cruel and callous, but if we started putting a lot of the guys who are on death row and executing them, the money that we'll save from that alone will probably help out the budgets there.
Just look at Texas.
Oh, right, and look at the crime rate in Texas versus California.
Exactly.
We have guys on death row for 30 plus years. Yeah, I mean, it's insane.
It's insane.
Once, the crime rate would go down, drastically.
And the liberals have always said that there's no difference, that it won't affect it if we don't have the death penalty, that there won't be as much crime, but crime has burgeoned in the past 20 years.
And think about it, what's even worse is death penalty or death row inmates probably get a lot better medical benefits than a lot of us here.
I have no doubt.
So it's a problem. It is a problem. Yes, sir.
Question, can you do anything, or can the legislature do anything about these sanctuary cities?
Yeah.
What
What happens to the rule of law? I mean, that's the problem, is the law says you have to abide by the rules of immigration. We have immigration laws on the books. And when a city openly defies the rule of law, that's a problem. It doesn't matter where you stand on immigration, it's the law. Then change the law, but don't sit there and openly defy the rule of law. And so, if I were the governor, I would actually opt to have the charters pulled on any sanctuary city, just for the fact that they're not abiding by the rule of law. Immigration, of course, is a whole different issue in itself, but it's beyond immigration. It's about the rule of law. Those city officials take the oath to abide by the rule of law every night.